Hello ladies and gentlemen, Rosie here, and today we're going to be doing another tier list for Godzilla Battle Line. I think I'm ready to give my opinion on the new meta, okay? The new meta isn't that much different. I was testing things and playing against people to see if the meta's changed at all with the nerfs, and I'm actually sad to report it's pretty similar. The only major difference now is that I think unit spam is even more viable. It's still not a good meta, and the challenging part about that is, like, what do? Nerf everything? But the problem is the game is still in its infancy, and the only thing that's really going to solve this is we need more cards. We need more pieces. Like it's like that is what is going to say this, because right now the meta has such a monopoly over the strategies. You can basically kind of predict what every single one of your opponents is going to do. And nothing is really going to change that until we get the inclusion of more viable battle pieces. Okay? So I think there's still room to make buffs and nerfs. Still, like, I'm not saying just release more pieces. There's still room for nerfs here. But all in all, I think the meta is going to be pretty stagnant unless we get a very significant set of buffs and nerfs, or we get new pieces. And I think the really sad thing is, even if we nerf this meta, the new meta that takes over is going to be just as oppressive, if not more so. It's just, we need more pieces, and so you're never going to really see a developed meta where multiple decks are viable until we get more win conditions, more types of these units. Because right now we only have only a few major win conditions, some of which that have synergy. So it's a pretty rough meta still. The game's still fun and enjoyable because it has a unique feel that even Clash Royale doesn't have. But as far as what the actual meta is, it's still just as oppressive. Okay, let's start with the S tiers again. My S tiers have not changed at all. So if you remember my last tier list, this is going to be looking pretty similar. Okay. So to start, I'm going to put Ultima as the best character in the game still. Ultima is just incredible. He's so good. The way you used him has now slightly changed because his DPS was lowered. And since his DPS was lowered, he is less self-sufficient than he used to be. But that's not saying much. He's still the most self-sufficient unit in the game. He can still take care of himself better than most other units in this game can. Because the fact that he has the most range, he still has a lot of power behind everything he's doing. So he's still getting the first hit off on every single unit in the entire game. This is why his positive matchups are so good. They did not tone his range down at all. They didn't tone the damage from his hits down at all. All they did was tone down the amount of times he's actually hitting you. Okay? When you're in advantage, that literally doesn't matter. Okay? The way you secure advantage is a little different, because before you could just kind of play him wherever you want, and it really wouldn't matter. He just bulldozed through everything. You have to be a slightly smarter with him now. One thing that really works with him is if you are running Godzilla 89 as your leader. That's his favorite leader to work with. He's basically played as a cannon, like as a Markalite cannon. Is that what it's called? The cannon that blows the monsters up. You put him behind your leader and play him as a cannon. He's basically a rolling version of that now, okay? So you put him in the back, have Godzilla 89 soak the damage, so he doesn't take any damage, because Godzilla 89 has so much health right now. You have Godzilla 89 soak the damage, while this works against every unit that's not 89 himself, because 89 you still really don't want touching you, but you have Godzilla 89 soak the damage from a Ghidorah or a Mothra while he sits there and blows it up, and then he slowly trudges along. You're building up energy. You're throwing things out to support him, like a Jaguar or a Ghidorah, stuff like that. You're building up your resources because he's blowing up so many things that he secures so much positive trades. You're making up the 6 energy used to play him extremely quickly. And so you can play all this shit to surround him, and then as soon as he's in, the game's still pretty much over. He can kind of be killed, But like, again, if you're running 89 and you have a health advantage everywhere, all you have to do is start that defensive push all over again. He's just incredible. He's so good. He's so OP. It's almost sad. it's so funny. Okay, and then while we're ranking him, we'll rank Terrestris as well, just like we did last time. Terrestris actually fell to B. His nerf was actually pretty significant. They nerfed his actual damage output, meaning he is way less self-sufficient now. You have to protect him every time. Like if you could account for the other units in the game, he could pretty much 1v1 everything that wasn't King Caesar or 89, for the most part. He kind of would like some Mechagodzilla help against a Ghidorah or a Mothra, but he could pretty much 1v1 everybody else and then pretty much evolve. Okay, now I mean, like, pre-patch Terrestris, you couldn't just like play him by himself and then he would be fine in all situations, but in some situations you could pretty much do that, as long as you just knew, if you knew you weren't going to get hit by King Caesar and evolution, like his previous form was actually so good. If you played him at the beginning and Ultima was like lower on health, he could actually kill Ultima and then regenerate all of his health. Like, that's how powerful his attack used to be. So he did fall to B because he can't 1v1 like everything anymore. He doesn't want to be facing a Mechagodzilla 1v1-on-1, especially in that 15 seconds. He just can't secure the kills. And that's pretty bad, because if you can secure a kill with him, you can, like, you're one step closer to evolving him. So while Terrestris did fall to B, Ultima's benefits are so good. He's definitely worth protecting and doing, especially since a lot of the units in the game are just so good at it. Okay, next we have the tried and true King Ghidorah, still retaining second best character in the game status despite his nerf. His nerfs were nothing. He got a range tone down, which, big whoop. His range was fucking ridiculous. That's all he got, was a range tone down. So again, he keeps his damage, he keeps his health. Oh, the only difference is, like, the leader can smack him now. Okay, but the leader smacking him means nothing, because he has so much health and leaders, like, do no damage. So he can still, like, fire off 5 to 10 shots before, 5 to 10, that's kind of a wide range. He can still fire off about 5 lightnings before he dies. Okay, and then if 89's your leader, or if Kong is your leader, or if Biollante is your leader, you can give him attack boosts, which make him do significantly more damage. Or if the newly buffed Space Godzilla's with him, he's getting attack boosts while he's doing all this. So it's kind of, he's still fucking bonkers insane. And again, the argument from last time still retains, that his continued meta existence is keeping cards bad. He is holding down a lot of units in this game. He is the most oppressive character in the entire game because of how he makes cards bad. And no other character in this game makes cards bad like King Ghidorah does. So he's still in the S tier. Next S tier is still Mothra. Mothra's still fucking crazy. They nerfed her damage and her bulk. Well, the fact that they nerfed both of them means both of them did not get nerfed very much. Whereas opposed to, like, how they nerfed Terrestris' attack and that's it, so his attack was kind of toned down to a noticeable degree. Mothra, it's barely fucking noticeable. Especially since she can still do that really stupid shit where she dies and her hitboxes are still out. What is that? She dies and then your unit will die a second later because it got killed by the Mothra, who's not even on the screen anymore. Like, it is insane. For 4 costs, she is still ridiculous. She still counter swarms. Ghidorah and Mothra still counter swarms. So again, like, Mothra's helping keep swarms in a bad spot. But, like, she's still ridiculously bulky, and her attack is still strong enough to where she's killing essentially everything. She's still fucking insane. And then lastly, I know most people in the game dropped him to A already. But 89, bruh. 89 is fucking ridiculous. 89 is still, he's the worst S tier, I'll give you that, because he's the least consistent and has the most counters. So I will give you the fact that he is the worst S tier in the game. But I would also get, like, there's 2 things in this game that make him S tier. 1, he is ridiculously hard to kill without swarms. Okay? Because swarms are kept bad by King Ghidorah, not everyone's running them. So you can't get his health down that fast. Next, he kills fucking everything. He just kills everything. He two-shots Mechagodzilla. He one-shots pretty much everything else. The only unit that can, like, take him for 3 shots is Jaguar because he has a block gimmick. And that's why JJ is a pretty decent answer, because you can kind of hold him off a little bit. Like, you have to hold this guy off, and you have to devote a lot of resources to doing it. So while you're devoting all of this energy to holding 89 off because you don't have swarms, because you know King Ghidorah is just going to kill them, your opponent is putting their Mothra larva out. Your opponent's putting their Batra out. Their opponent's putting their Terrestrius out. Well, because they have energy generator already, so they have Terrestrius ready to go. And you're sitting there devoting all your resources to killing 89, and then by the time 89 is dead, there's a Jet Jaguar and a Mechagodzilla in front of the Terrestrius who's already evolved. Okay, he's very good at securing evolutions, because, especially for Mothra, who moves a lot slower than Terrestrius does. Like, Terrestrius is still, like, you have to have a lot of energy to help Terrestrius. If your 89's up there and your opponent doesn't have swords, bam, that's a free Mothra. And it's a free Batra, because those things don't fucking move. So he's very good at securing the evolutions as well as killing them. He is still a very good Terrestrius killer, because he kills everything. So the thing that, but like, that's not why he's S tier. Like, all that's still good, but the thing that makes him S tier is late game. He would be an A tier because of all of his checks and counters if the 2 monsters did not come closer together. The fact that the 2 leader monsters come closer together means that late game, this guy's fucking dumb. Okay? When in that late game situation, like, again, he does so much damage to the leaders. So if you can't spend a bunch of energy on a King Ghidorah anymore because 89 is already in. So if you spend all your energy on these air units that are good, you're dead. He does so much fucking damage, and if you're not running him as the leader himself, he does more damage to you because every other leader in the game has significantly less health than he does. So, like, you could still get 3-shotted by this guy in the late game. It's very, very stupid. If leaders get a health buff, he might fall to the A tier, but, like, for right now, with how that late game plays out and how much he can still kill, no, he is not an A tier unit quite yet, in my opinion. Okay, so again, this is a very similar story. These 4 units right here make up a core that everybody else plays around. That's why we ranked them first, just like we did last time. They make up the core of the game and the actual win condition of the game that everybody else plays around, and their viability is considered on how they work with these guys. Okay, so Angerus. Angerus is a tough unit right now. Okay, now, it is hard for me to sit here and tell you he is a 5 cost is still worth it at this point, because what does he offer? What does Angerus as a unit offer right now for 5 costs? Okay, what's good, the thing about this is that apart from Mothra, Terrestrius, Ghidorah, Ultima, and Godzilla 89, 6, 6, 6, and then 7 for 89, okay? You have these high costing units. You cannot load your deck with a lot of stuff that's high cost, okay? High cost is considered 5 and up, okay? Apart from the energy generator, which helps you get back a lot of the energy you spend on it, anything that's like 5 and up in this game most likely isn't worth it if it's not them, okay? Because they just don't bring much to the table. He gets fucked by the Kamakura. He gets fucked by, it's hard, like, you need something to set you apart if you're 5 cost. And Angerus with no abilities, it's hard for me to tell you that hitting kind of hard is worth it. He can beat Mechagodzilla one-on-one, but that's like his only positive aspect right now. He loses to everything else. He doesn't beat 89 one-on-one. He can kind of hit Ultima, I guess, but if the guy is pushing with Ultima correctly, there's 5 things out with Ultima, so he cannot break an Ultima push. Okay? If the Ultima push is being done right, as soon as Ultima is dead, he's replaced instantly upon being dead. So he doesn't break an Ultima push, because even if he kills the first Ultima, the second one's right there to kill him. So what does he offer? He doesn't beat Kong one-on-one. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell you that he's not a win more unit. If you're already pushing correctly, he can kind of help you. But even then, he can kind of threaten your push because he's high cost. So if Ultima dies, and then you can't replace the Ultima yet, your opponent might have their counter push ready. I don't know. My reasons. Those are my reasons. I'm gonna put him in C. I think he's fallen that low. He needs something to set him apart, and he just doesn't have it right now. I think a lot of people still have him in B, but it's with what the B tier looks like, in my opinion, right now. I cannot tell you that he for 5 costs is worth it anymore. He's just win more. Next, tank base and tank base and this thing are still D tier. They suck. As somebody that has tried to like make both of them work, they still fucking suck ass. The only positive aspect they have is that they can kind of slow down your opponent's push because there's so many of them. But if you're running King Ghidorah and Ultima, no, like they're not going to help you. The planes can admittedly counter Godzilla 89, and then they can like build up. They can, if you see a ground unit like a Jet Jaguar opening or something, they can kind of counter that. But like when even Manila fucks you, it like 1v1, and Manila can still like work to like get a lot of that energy back. No. They need buffs, and the buffs that they cost way too much. Tanks need to be lowered to 3, the tank base needs to be lowered to 4, and then the planes need to be lowered to 5. I think that would really help them get off the ground a little bit. Because they can't push. They just can't push with their high costs. And again, like we said with the high cost units, they need something. Because if you're not, like, if I have 6 energy to spare, why the fuck would I play the planes over playing Ghidorah or Ultima or 89? Or just saving one? Like what do you offer besides that? And they offer fucking nothing, because pretty much half the things in the game that are good right now, anybody that's good has so much anti-air support because you got to kill Ghidorah and Mothra. So everybody in the game is like over half their units can hit aerial ones. So like if you're running the planes, you're doing it to counter a Godzilla 89 or a Jet Jaguar or a King Caesar who's busting through anyway because his dash is going to go off. If you don't have, they don't counter King Caesar's dash, so they don't counter him really either. So there's nothing that's doing good right now that they actually counter. The tanks, I guess, could counter King Caesar. So the tanks could counter King Caesar and the planes could counter 89. But I don't know. They're still not worth it. They cost too much, and there's better ways to counter literally all of that stuff. So they suck as a result. Next, Manila. The fucker's still a beast. Oh my god. There. Manila is still a fucking beast. He is in the A tier. Still. He's still at full power. They didn't touch him in the last patch. So he's still doing the exact same stuff he was doing before. He has a brutal synergy with Mechagodzilla. And as you level Manila up, he is surprisingly bulky. He can last 2 hits from Ultima as you start leveling him up. And that's like actually kind of insane, because Ultima should be one-shotting. You'd think Ultima one-shots him, but he doesn't. And the fact that Ultima doesn't one-shot him means he's going to get an extra ring off. He's going to get some extra stuff off. He's going to give you some extra time to replenish the energy that you're getting from him. So, and at 2 costs, there's no downside. He's pretty crazy. He's probably still, in my opinion, I don't know if Space Godzilla's passed him in support, but like he's either the best support or the second best support in the entire game, which leads us to the newly buffed Space Godzilla, who is definitely an A tier unit as well. At 6 costs, you might want to run him with Energy Generator because he's still like, you're kind of loading up on high cost stuff here, but it's not even the crystals. Well, maybe the crystals are like, I mean, okay. The crystals are definitely a good thing. Their new positioning is actually very fucking annoying. The fact that they can counter a lot of stuff, get some extra hits. The reason that he's an A tier unit, that like he would be B tier still if he just had the crystals. The reason he's here is he provides attack buffs, which is fucking insane. You don't need a King Ghidorah or a Godzilla 89 or an Ultima to get an attack buff. Okay, 89 can live without it because he's so strong anyway. But Ultima getting an attack buff means that he's kind of making up for his DPS nerf from the last patch because he's doing more damage with his attacks now. Like Space Godzilla thrown behind an Ultima or a Ghidorah, so you can't hit him, but he's still trudging forward and providing Ultima with attack buff, so Ultima's getting through the Mothra and the King Ghidorah faster, taking less damage. That is really big. And then he's attacking on top of it, so he's doing some extra damage on top of it. So even if 80 of Ultima puts them in chip range, or Ghidorah puts them in chip range, oh, Space Godzilla's attacking now too with his extended range, so he's gonna secure kills as well. He's doing very well right now. He's not a gimmick. I originally thought he was a gimmick, and then I started running him at level 2, and he started, like, he adds so much to that Ultima push. Especially with the way it works now, because the crystals providing more things to hit means Ultima's taking less damage, your units are taking less damage because attacks are being wasted on crystals, and then they're being buffed to kill things faster. That's good. It's not a gimmick. It's just fucking good. Gigan, okay? I moved Gigan up to B because Gigan has leader synergy. Like, that's why he's here. He's still not very good, but he has some pretty decent leader synergy with Biollante. So he's still on the gimmicky side. I wouldn't even say he's like viable to run with all leaders, but I think the builds that he does work in, aka he's pretty much a Biollante only unit, and then maybe with Space Godzilla or somebody to give him an attack buff, or even Godzilla 89 if he can somehow push on the other side. He still kind of win more, but if you can turn him into like a brutal kind of King Caesar character, if you can force him in when you need to get him in with the Biollante ability. See, he's kind of restricted to Biollante builds, but he's kind of undeniably powerful in those builds that he's in. So we bumped him up to B. Biollante, I go back and forth on. She's low cost, but she's still kind of bad, and she doesn't really offer anything beyond being low cost. But being low cost, I think, is still good enough to get you into B tier. If you have low cost, you're good at cycling. And if you're good at cycling, you can factor into the Ultima push enough. She doesn't really provide any benefits that other units don't provide on her own. However, if you ask me who am I running, Angerus or Biollante, I'm still picking Biollante because she's 4 cost. Does that make sense? Even if you have a hard time evolving her, if you can and plus she's an evolution unit, so maybe she can bait out the King Caesar. She's one of those units that people kind of just let evolve because you have to kill Mothra and Batra and Terrestris. So it's kind of, she has Hedorah syndrome where people just kind of let her go because you're not wasting your King Caesar on her. You're going to use your King Caesar or your Jaguar to try to kill the units that are way more transformative than she is. So she can kind of get left alone, and I wouldn't worry about her evolution too much. But the brutal thing, though, it just still is the cycling, that she adds a lot to that engine. And that's what's good about her. Next, Batra, A. He hits pretty fucking hard. He's one of the things, and every time I'm playing a Batra, because mine's only at level 2, so I don't run him yet. But every time I play a Batra that I can tell is kind of leveled up, I'm always surprised at how hard he hits. He's worth the 5 cost because he's flying. He hits hard, and he provides attack buffs. He's here because he provides attack buffs. If he comes out and everything around him gets an attack buff, so he's kind of good for that counter push, kind of like Mechagodzilla is. But I think he hits a little bit harder than she does, and he has more range and can. It's up in the air between him or Meg. It's definitely either him or Mechagodzilla. I don't think you want both, but I think he provides a unique skill set. He's got the buffs. The buffs or the nerfs, I think the buffs are actually probably better overall, but Mechagodzilla doesn't have to evolve, so that's the trade-off. His spawn-in ability is better than hers, but he doesn't have to evolve, and he does a lot. He does some damage, got more range than she does, so it's definitely still an A tier. Hedorah, A. An argument could be made for B at this point. I don't think he brings a lot to the table. I think he's probably the worst of the A tiers, but he's still bulky, still counter swarms, still brings a little bit more to it. Plus, I think he's kind of just Biollante. They're honestly kind of the same character, but I think he has more bulk. I don't know if I'm right about that. He's teetering on A and B. So if you put him at the bottom of A, I don't know if I disagree, but I don't know if I disagree with the top of B either. He's in that range. For 4 costs and bulky, but his attack kind of sucks. But he can't hit in the air, so you could, like, he can kill, weaken stuff, and he's got that ability on death. I think he's got enough to stay A, the more I think about it. Even though he's, like, kind of weak, and I don't... his attack is kind of weak. He's got the poison. He can get some clutch kills. So, yeah, if he can kill something, we'll leave him at A. Kamakura Swarm, 5 cost. Let's see. In this meta, they can't hit the people in the air. They can counter 89 and slow down an Ultima, kind of like the D tier characters, but they just they can kind of protect evolutions better than the D tier units can. Like, you can secure evolutions with them if you see that, like, if you think you can block a King Caesar dash with them, but you can do it with Kamakuras too, who's like way less cost. I just think that, like, for everything that you're using them for, you could use the regular Kamakuras for, who could also save you costs. So I think they are by far the worst swarm in the game. They cost too much. They should probably be 4, honestly. If they were 4, I think they'd be a little better. But 5, no. Not right now. Maybe in the future if they get buffed to 4. Maybe. King Caesar. I'm moving King Caesar up to A. King Caesar is by far the best evolution killer in this game right now. 4 costs. He's 4. In my last list, I said he was 5, but he's actually 4. And that changes everything because he has cycle utility. He's not as high risk as I thought he was, okay? I don't know why I thought he was 5. I don't know if he got buffed and I missed it, but, like, I thought he was 5 for some reason. But he's actually 4, and that's huge. That changes everything. That lowers the risk on what you're doing with him. If your opponent is at chip damage and you can sneak a King Caesar around them, their counter push, you can secure wins. I've secured wins and have been beaten by a sneaky fucking King Caesar that just went around my push. It can happen. I mean, that's not why he's A tier. That's kind of a gimmick. He's A tier because when you clear a path for him, he kills Mothra, Charistris, and Batra better than fucking anybody in this game because he's fast. His dash does a lot of damage. He can kill a Mechagodzilla. Like, if sometimes you, like, Jaguar can kill the fucking Mothra, but you just need to kill that Mechagodzilla really fast. King Caesar's your boy. He can run in really fast, get that Mechagodzilla dead, so your Mothra can get in there. Jaguar still counters him. Mechagodzilla counters him hard. But, so, like, he does have some counters, but, like, all in all, there is nobody better at killing those evolutions right now. For low cost. You can get in there with an Ultima or a Ghidorah and get them too. But, like, King Caesar, when you master this guy, he's definitely in the A tier. Insane. Bomber, C. It costs 5, doesn't it? I don't even know anymore. It's bad. Its damage was nerfed, and it's not helping you. It's not helping you as much as you think it is. It's one of those win more units that doesn't have much to set it apart. Like, Gigan synergizes with Biolante because Biolante is you move faster in the water. So like, this thing doesn't get a Biolante buff. So, like, even though Gigan's on the ground and that's worse than being in the air, Gigan's utility and synergy is what separates it from the bomber and makes it B tier despite being grounded, which means everybody in the game can hit you. So that's where the separation comes in. Bomber's just still average and not good. Next, Destroy Larva. I'm gonna go ahead. It's either C or you could say B at this point because they can hit in the air, so they can beat Batra. And with Space Godzilla rising in usage, they can kind of help to deal with him and get those crystals out of the way. Which, I mean, Kamakuras could do that too, but for 5 costs, Destroy Larva is definitely better. I'm going to go ahead and just put them in B. They are definitely the worst B tier, though. Like, they're definitely the worst. And if you say C tier, that's fine. Like, that's completely reasonable because they're still not good in this meta. They still get fucked by JJ, but they can at least break JJ's guard now. Whereas before they couldn't. And same thing for the Kamakuras thing. They can break JJ's guard now. But they get hit in the air, so they can still counter Mechagodzilla. They can counter 89. And for 5 costs, they can They can hit, they counter Batra, they can hit Mechagodzilla. Like, they have a bit more utility than the actual Kamakura, even though there's more Kamakura. So I'm going to go ahead and give them B. I think that's, again, they're the weakest B tier, though, by far. Mechagodzilla, my girl's A tier now. I underrated her in the last tier list. I want to start with that. And the last tier list, I said she was the worst monster in the game. That was simply wrong. Her debuffs are kind of good. She can check Ghidorah, which is big. She can check softened up Ghidorahs, and she checks 89. She can check King Caesar. Okay, when you can counter 89, check Ghidorah, and check Mothra, like you counter too many things and that are good for you to be completely horrible. She's flying, so not a lot. So she's limited on who can actually hit her, which is also very good. They just buffed her, so they lowered her cost. So the only thing bad about her, the thing that kept her B tier was 6. She had 6 cost, but now she's been lowered to 5. People say that she's definitely a more defensive unit. Like her best applications are on defense, but she is also kind of underrated on offense. She has good DPS. She's flying, so like she beats JJ. She can kill those vanillas that are in your way. Like, she's got some utility on offense. So if you're pushing, like, don't save her is what I'm trying to say. Like, one of my biggest mistakes with her was I was saving her for when my opponent's counter push happened. If you can push per game and win right there, and you feel like you can, get her out there. She's another body, and unit spam is what's really good right now. I mean, there's not a lot of strategy behind it, but like, get her out there. She's a body. You need to use her because unit spam is good right now. She's got some utility on offense, and she can put some work in for you. I mean, if you think your opponent's going to break your push, definitely save her for the counter push. But like, if you think you're going to win the game, get her out there. Oh shit. Next, this fucking thing, Dimension Tide, still trash. Still costs 6, should be 5 or 4 even. Maybe not 4. I feel like if it was 4, it would be kind of ridiculous. At 6, though, it's too much. You can secure evolutions with it and still kill swarms. Because, like, if you can, like, move a King Ghidorah, that's pretty big. But sometimes, there's not... Other than helping you evolve units, it doesn't do much. Maybe you can get some clutch kills on weakened units, but I don't think that's enough to get it out of B. Fucking... No. It's just still... It's still too limited in its utility, and the thing that it's trying to do is just be good. Like, you don't need to secure evolutions with this. You can secure them with the better units in the game that can do more besides that. So, and that are cheaper and can do way more besides that. And this thing, we'll get to this when we talk about freeze, which I've lowered its position. It's only in play for 3 seconds. If you are wasting energy on something that's not going to be in play, the units can be in the play play longer. That's why they're good. These things are only in the game for like 3 seconds. Okay. Now in Clash Royale, that's okay because their effects are kind of broken and they can kill a lot of things. But like, Clash Royale's equivalent of the missiles is Fireball. The Fireball can kill things and does a lot of damage to the towers. The missiles don't do any of that. So it can Manila. They can kill Manila if he's like at half health. That's not worth 5 cost. I still think they need a buff, but anyway, we'll get to the missiles. But yeah, there's a Dimension Tide at 6, definitely not fucking worth it. Next, the Mochalite Cannon. I still think that's B, especially with Ultima now starting to like fill its role. If you can like just save 1 more cost to get Ultima in play, who can then start a counter push. This thing can't start a counter push. It can get somebody off of you and can do a lot of damage and can kind of, but like, at 5 costs, why not just save 1 more to get Ultima and then start your counter push with him, and then he goes all the way down there and keeps going? You know what I'm saying? It can do what you want it to do, and it's admittedly good if you don't have Ultima. But like, once you have Ultima, this thing's role is gone. So like, you're running this in Ultima, non-Ultima decks, which are off meta, I'm sure. I see a little bit more non-Ultima strategies, but the big strategy in this game is still Ultima, and I just don't see a role for this thing in meta decks until Ultima is gone. So never, unless they tone him down massively. Freeze, I'm also lowered to B. Same argument for a Dimension Tide. I put Freeze in A last time. I think I was in the honeymoon phase with it. I start to see some problems with it now. The main problem was that it's only in play for 10 seconds, which I thought was one of its biggest strengths, was that it's actually in play for 10 seconds. But even it's good at cycling. Like there's still enough good things about it to keep it in B tier, and you can make it work in specific decks. And the people that are dedicated to it and can make it work are actually very, very like good. But like, okay, it's worse at protecting Terrestrius now, because before it was really good at protecting Terrestrius because Terrestrius was self-sufficient, but Terrestrius isn't self-sufficient anymore. So 10 seconds off, your Terrestrius is now fully capable of dying in 5 seconds. To an even weakened Ghidorah, especially if the guy. Another thing that's hurt the Freeze is the rise in attack buffs. Okay, they need less time to kill you now than ever because of attack buffs from the leaders and Space Godzilla and Batra. They need less time to kill you now than ever before. And if you slow down your opponent's push, there's cons to that as well. You can slow down their push. They're building up energy, so like you're getting some time off, but like next thing you know, the thing you're going to be faced with is going to be stronger, because in unit spam meta they're going to have another body out there, so you could potentially give them a JJ for their push as well. So if you don't have something to counter the body they're able to put out on the board because you've slowed their push down, I mean, it can be used right and it has big plays, but if used wrong, this thing could lose you a game. So it's still good, but you have to know how to fucking use it. It can be high risk sometimes. Next, the Choir. I'm going to move the Choir down to D. I don't think it's recovered since it's nerfed, and I haven't seen it once. It's just something people aren't really running right now. Magura. I kind of want to put Magura in C again, because 6. If it was 5, I think he'd be B, but 6 costs, man, no. He can go anywhere on the board, which is cute, but like, again, like, if you have 6 cost, what is your argument for being played over King Ghidorah and Ultima? You don't need to like be as fast in this game anymore. The reason that Magura was so good, apart from his damage, was he was fast in a slow meta. The meta's faster now. Ultima can hit you from horrifically long ranges that he shouldn't be able to hit you from. Ghidorah kills everything super fast. Like, the game is more fast-paced, so everything can kind of keep up with Magura, and the things he can beat one-on-one are kind of reduced because his damage was nerfed. So, at 6 costs, he's still not worth it. Again, I will still say that he can win you a game, he can win you a few matches, and I've still been beaten by him before, but I don't think he brings enough to the table to say where I think he's the reason that my opponent won. The reason that I think my opponent was winning is because they were pushing correctly, and they just happened to have they were pushing correctly with the usual heavy hitters, and then Magura was played, and then Magura's the thing that killed me. They would have killed me with anything, not with Magura. So even with the games that I lost to Magura, Magura was not the reason I lost. Again, win more, just like every high cost thing in this game. What Energy Tower? The Energy Tower is A. It's very good. In a meta where, again, costs are rising, Mechagodzilla is good now. Space Godzilla is good now. Like, Space Godzilla has an argument to be run alongside King Ghidorah and Ultima. Okay, it's because, again, Godzilla 89 in there too. So as even more high-costing things become good, you got your Batras, your Mechagodzillas, this thing's helping. It's helping get the energy you need to make the plays that you want to make. The decks that need this, the decks that use this thing are becoming more and more prominent at the higher ranks, because you need these high-cost units, and if you can get to them faster and cycle through them faster, that's good. It can kind of be a hindrance if you're losing, but like, if you're not losing, you don't need to worry about it. So the thing's downsides, it's bad at comebacks, but if you can secure advantage state with it, then that doesn't matter. So its downsides can be very limited. We got We got a few left. Okay. Next, the tanks. The tanks are still in. The tanks are still in C, IMO. They're just weak. The reason that Destroyer Larva gets B is that there's more of them. Like, I think they're worth the extra cost. The tanks have the stun, but there's only 2 of them. They can break JJ's guard now, but again, like, they're not doing much for you. And at 2 of them, they're harder to take out than Larva with single costing units. So like that, the downside of them being less of them is definitely enough to get them back down to C. They're just like Destroy Larva, I think, is a little bit better now because the meta's changed enough to where they can do slightly more, whereas these things are just right where they were. That's why it's toned down. Missiles, I kind of already went over missiles. They're C. They are C. They're not in play long enough. Their damage was nerfed. No one runs them anymore. So they're just not very good. I'm sure you see them a lot at low level, but you gotta get those things out ASAP. IMO. Kamakura, still B, right where he was. The rolls, 2 costs, good. It doesn't really matter what happens to him. He can be used to secure evolutions and counter King Caesar. Like, if Kamakura counters a King Caesar dash, that's all you fucking needed it to do. Okay, like Kamakura being low cost means that it can fill rolls. There's things you can do with it, and like if you can, since Manila is a better card, if you can save your Manila from having to deal with the King Caesar dash, you can use your Manila for other things. And then the other 2 Kamakuras can kind of get some hits on King Caesar, while the Terrestris was also shooting him at the same time. So very good King Caesar check for low cost. And then slow down 89 with them. There's some things there's some things that they can do. For 2 costs, they have just enough utility to stay B tier. Next, the trains. I see people still like trains. They can break JJ's guard, but I don't see it myself. I think they were like the bottom of B. I still just don't see it, guys. I don't see how these things are still being talked about. They don't do much damage. They kill swarms, which big whoop. Killing swarms is like the most unneeded trait for anything right now because you're competing with Ghidorah and Mothra and Jaguar. And if you're gonna be 4 costs like Jaguar, you better be fucking good. And I don't know why anybody would. I still see it sometimes, and I just don't understand why. The guys that I see it on they either lose or they're extremely over leveled, so they can run anything they want. So yeah, bad. Rodan. I think I had Rodan in B last time. Even despite his buff, his position's not changed. He's still too low health. He can kind of do some cycling, so he's still a little bit better. I think it's likely if he did not get buffed, he would have dropped to C. But his buff is saving him from C because it happened, and he's 4 costs, so he's a better engine to cycle through cards with now. But yeah, at 5 costs, he definitely wasn't worth it before. I think they knew they had to buff Mechagodzilla, and then after they buffed Mechagodzilla to be 5, they knew they couldn't leave Rodan at 5 because there'd be no reason to play him. So they had to run them down to 4. The only times I see Rodan kind of like winning 1v1s are Rodans that are on players that are extremely, extremely over-leveled. He still can't win many 1v1s. There's just no... I mean, maybe you can make an argument to play him over Mechagodzilla, but maybe. I mean, if Ultima... You can get to your Ultima faster, and if you think that Ultima's on defense, like Ultima can hold your defense off, and you can start a push with Space Godzilla and Ultima, and then use your Rodan. That might be an argument. You can save 1 energy. If you think Space Godzilla's the better engine for attack boost, you don't need Batra. And if you think Ultima can hold your defense on his own, then you don't need Mechagodzilla. So then you can use Rodan. And so there's some situations and philosophies I could see him getting played with his lower cost. Next, Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla, bruh. I think he's probably one of the best A tiers in the game. Probably the 3rd best, honestly. Such a consistent unit. He good bulk, good attack speed. He can hit air units. I think he is... Mechagodzilla is the all-around perfect package in the game right now. He's 4 costs. There's not one bad thing about this guy. The only bad things about him are he loses to the meta units, and that's like about it. He's just so good to have, dude. He is part of the best opening play in the game, which is Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think he might be the best A tier. Because he's just so consistent. He's such a good early game choice. And then he's good at pushing in the late game too. Like, there's not one part of the match. The only bad Mechagodzilla is a dead Mechagodzilla, or not in play Mechagodzilla. Like, he's the one unit. He's kind of like the Jet Jaguar of this patch. I can't look at you and tell you one bad thing about this guy, except the fact that he loses to these 4 characters, and he has one weird matchup against Angurus that he loses to. But other than that, he kind of beats everybody that's not a swarm. He just hits really hard. Maybe he loses to Kong, but who the hell's running Kong? Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but there you go. He's extremely solid. Jet Jaguar, his nerf didn't hurt him at all. I mean, it technically did, because swarms can break his guard now. I think that's the only difference. The fact that he lost his range, I mean, swarms can kind of break his guard because they will use he can't kill everything on the swarm in one hit anymore, like he used to be able to do. So like he will, like, during the cooldown of his attack, his guard will get broken by a swarm, but like then he attacks again and the rest of the swarm is dead. So, and then the ability to survive 3 shots from 89 is absolutely unprecedented. No other character in the game can do it. He can occupy so much of 89's time while a Mechagodzilla or a Rodan or Ghidorah is above him shooting him. If you want to slow down 89, he's the best unit in the game for that. Drop him right next to Ultima to slow him down a little bit as well and make Ultima take some pretty decent damage. He loses to air units, but that's his only issue. That's still his only issue. That's the only bad thing. Like, even though he got nerfed, there's still no bad things about him. So he's still fantastic. Kong, I'm moving Kong down to C. I think he is by far the worst 4-star in the game. I tried to work with him a little more because I was like, there's got to be something I can find out of him. Again, he does the role he's trying to fill worse than like everybody. Swarm counter. Well, we got Ghidorah and Mothra who fly, Jet Jaguar who's 4 cost. Like you need more than that. And okay, well, I can hit hard. Okay, do you hit harder than Godzilla 89? No, well, definitely not. Do you hit harder than Ultima? If you do, it's barely. He's kind of bulky, and he can do good damage to Ultima, which I said in the last time. He can do some decent damage, but he's still getting 2-hit shot. He's still getting 2-hit KO'd by an 89. He doesn't beat the air units. I think it'd be interesting if they made him a unit that could beat the air units. If he could hit people in the air. I think that's the buff he needs more than anything. Like, just let him hit people in the air, and then let's see how that affects his usage rate. But right now, by far the absolute worst 4-star unit, which is good because he's leaving the game in January, so it's good that he's not that good. But don't feel inclined to level him up. I think he's the worst 4-star in the game. He's a better leader than he is a unit. Like, he's a decent leader. If you want to use him as a leader, sure, he's decent for that, but no, not as a unit. He sucks. 2021, I think I've seen enough of him to put him in B. He's not the worst B. I don't want to put him down there. He is very non-self-sufficient, okay? He can actually beat a few things one-on-one that you don't think he'd be able to, like a Ghidorah. Like, he can beat Ghidorah, and then maybe he could beat softened up Ultimas as well. Maybe not, maybe even non-softened up Ultimas. The problem is, though, is like, you're killing like one thing with him and that's it. Unless, of course, he's being supported by something. Okay, but why do you want to support him over Ultima? He doesn't have the range that Ultima has. Maybe if you can get him in, he can do some damage to the leader, but like, I think he is going to be less consistent at doing that than Ultima is because of Ultima's range. Ultima's got the range over him. He's bad against swarms because he's got to kill everything. His attack at the beginning is super weak. And like he requires resources to make work, and I think if you put the resources into other things, you'll get better results. The uses that he has, you'll go, wow, so broke. And he might be a gimmicky anti-meta pick in the future, but because if the meta keeps going in favor of no swarms, as long as swarms are bad, he'll be fine. But if swarms ever rise up in usage again, he's toast. He loses to King Caesar, and he loses to Manila. Manila hard counters him, and that's big. When you're getting hard countered by when you are a 6-star unit getting hard countered by 2 2-star units, that's bad. When you're 6 costs, you're getting countered by 2 2-costing units in Kamakura and Manila, that is pretty fucking bad. So he is not the end-all be-all. I feel like some people are overrating him right now. His checks are really bad, and the consistency of Manila is a problem for him, because you have to make sure Manila is accounted for and killed before this guy can even work. And then again, if your opponent's deck's good at cycling, Manila is the first character to come back. So I think Manila being so good hurts his consistency just a little bit. And then Mothra Leo is not on this maker, and I haven't seen enough of him yet. I just haven't. I don't think I've seen him once. I haven't played one person that has that character, and I think the problem is that everyone's 4-stars are kind of leveled up to the point they need to be at, and he's the only one who's not. And this event that's going on for him has been very bad at getting people the pieces. So like, I haven't seen anybody playing Mothra Leo yet, so no Mothra Leo this time. Maybe in about a year, when everyone's Mothra Leos are ready to go, maybe we'll see him. I don't know. Toho needs to amend the 4-stars again, because once everybody has max level, like what the hell are they going to do when they're dropping a new 4-star and that's level 1? It's not going to be viable for another year. So I don't know. They need to amend that again. So that's the tier list. Overall, I just think we need more pieces, like I said before. Still a fun game. Not the best meta right now, though. Needs some more tweaks and adjustments. The S tiers still need another tone down. I'm getting the hell out of here, lads. GG's.